we are for another session of the K.A.S.S.I.E project. I'm so glad you guys decided to come back and to share a story with us. Today's guest is Kimberly Sullivan. I'm like totally amazed that you are here, but I thank God for you, and I'm so grateful that you're a survivor. So welcome to the couch.
Thank you, Khrys. I will tell you that in getting ready to be here with you today, I thought, how did I end up on the couch? How did I end up on the couch, and why did I end up on the couch? And I just heard a very small whisper from the Lord and he said, why not you? Why not you, and why not you be in this situation? Because truly everything that we go through is for our making, and I believe that our tests and our trials are to be a testimony. And I know that when we share our stories, that it's bringing deliverance to somebody else, deliverance from their situation, not just spiritual deliverance, because I don't want to be all deep, but I do believe that people need to be delivered from whatever their situation is, and especially if it's a situation and it's been an abuse situation and they're a survivor.
Now let's establish right now, you are a survivor of what? Sexual or domestic abuse?
Domestic abuse.
Now how long were you in your abusive situation? And was it just one situation, or was there a history of it?
Well, there was only one situation, but there was a lot of what I know now, emotional abuse. We would have extreme good times, and then we would have extreme bad times where the arguing and the fussing and the fighting was so intense. And so I left the home quite a bit. So there was a revolving door. When things got bad, I would leave. And when I would leave, I was made to feel like, oh, you're just running away. You can't handle the pressure of the relationship. But some of that, I was leaving because I couldn't handle the pressure. But then I was also being asked to leave as well. And so things would be said like, well, if you're not happy here, then maybe you don't need to be here. And then if I packed my stuff up and I left, then I was made to feel like I was a runaway or that I couldn't handle it. But the emotional abuse would be so back and forth. We started that way. It was very emotionally abusive. It would just be back and forth, back and forth. And I would pack my stuff and I would leave, and I would pack my stuff and I would leave. That abuse went on. And I was always tricked into believing that I was the one that had the mental issue because I couldn't handle it. If I couldn't endure the neglect, being neglected, yelled at, you want to have a conversation. If I would say, I want to talk to you, then the yelling would start. And then I would say, why can't we just have a conversation? Women, we are made to feel like when you say to a man, we need to talk, that just freaks them completely out. You say we need to talk, and then you get the whole rant and raving, and then you start walking on eggshells. There are things that you want to say and you want to be heard, but when that person starts to make you feel like you're crazy, something is wrong with you. What is wrong with you? I'm not doing anything to you, and you're constantly being made to feel like you're crazy. And then the other parts of the emotional abuse is that whatever you put on is not good enough. Whatever you're doing with your hair, why are you doing that? So your self-esteem starts to get beat down. So my cycle started with the emotional abuse, and then the running away and coming back, the running away and coming back. So it was a revolving door. And then the person was telling everybody that I didn't support them and that I was, giving up on the relationship. And that wasn't true. I wanted to work through the relationship, but then there would be things that were said like, if you're not happy, then you need to leave, or I'm tired of you coming and going. You need to make up your mind. So the beat down emotionally starts to happen, and it is the most draining thing I've ever lived through.
When did you realize that you were in an abusive situation? It seems to me that there were signs there. However, if you love someone, you overlook those things, and it's not abuse to you. You guys just have an argument, or he or she was angry. But when did you realize that you were in an abusive situation?
I think that I started to realize when it was almost after the first argument. The first argument happened, and it was one of those arguments that you really don't even remember what we started arguing about. That's just how minute it was. So there's lots of little minute things that happen. And I think it was so subtle because I was coming and going. Whenever we would have a big argument and I just wanted to get away, I would come and I would go. And probably after about the third time of me leaving and coming back, so we would have an argument, I would leave, and then we would have that whole honeymoon phase. So, you have all these different cycles that you go through. After about the third time, I thought, this is not normal. This is not normal that I have to get so angry enough that I pack up my stuff and leave because I'm tired of being mistreated or talked to in a negative fashion, or the very simple arguments. And then I realized, I remember after the third time leaving, there was the first time when we were starting to argue, and I remember him saying to me, if you ever leave me, don't ever come back.
And this was the first time.
Yes, this is even before the first time it happened, that this person made a declaration to me that if you ever leave me, don't ever come back. And as I heard that in my mind, I thought, why would a person say that? I had never even left the first time yet, but we had started to intensify in our arguments, and I was probably threatening. I'm thinking I was probably threatening, I will pack my stuff and I will leave. And then that person said to me, and if you ever leave me, don't ever come back. In hindsight now, I feel like that was what they were used to. Mm-hmm. That has been a part of their cycle in relationships, that people aren't able to handle or aren't able to cope with you and they leave you. And so you wanted to give me fair warning early enough to say, if you ever leave me, don't ever come back. So the first time that I left, I remember leaving, and he showed up to come and talk me into coming back home. And I came back home, and when I came back home, he said, I told you that if you ever left me, not to ever come back. I don't want this to happen again.
Wait. So you left, and then he asked you to come back, and then he turns around and says, I told you not to come back.
But I think that was to establish I'm really in love with you. Because I think a lot of times when people are used to a cycle of abuse, they have to try to convince that person, I love you. You do know that I love you. Even though love hurts, my love is hurting you, I do love you. And so that is to make you value their love. And then it starts the manipulation of, wanting you to always remember, I love you. And so I feel like for me, knowing that you love me and you don't want to be without me, it made me feel obligated to be there for you. So that's all a part of the manipulation of it all. And so it's very subtle, but those were the things that were said to me. And now as I look back, I can see, because when you are being manipulated and you're in love with a person, I don't think you want to recognize that right away. You're trying to figure out how to adjust your love style to match their love style. You don't think about it as I'm being set up to be abused. So the red flags, I think in the very beginning, it was the not wanting to let go of me. Well, the very first red flag, now that I've done a lot of research and understanding, it was we moved way too fast. And way too fast didn't happen. I had been knowing him because I had been interacting through my work with him for probably about 4 months. But when we went on our first date, the first date never ended. I moved in like the same day.